Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar with HedgeFlows on how to maximize savings in international trade. I'm joined by a customer of ours and also probably a well-known accountant in John Toon, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves in a couple of minutes. But before that, we just wanted to give you a bit of an insight of what you're going to be learning or talking about today. But as we get into that, why don't we do the introductions first? So, Alice, why don't you kick us off and let's get a bit of introduction to what you do.
Briefly, I founded a freight forwarding company called JBM Freight with my partner in just as lockdown hit, 2020, which was maybe poor timing, but we just took everything in our stride. So we support our customers' supply chains moving all their goods around the world from A to B. I split my time quite evenly between finance and operations, and being a small business, I just get stuck in with everything, really.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us. And over to you, John.
Yeah, hi everyone. John Toon from Beaver & Struthers, mid-sized firm based up in Manchester, and I look after our tech strategy, and I'm also a member of the Early Adopters Hub. And I've been involved with HedgeFlows from the early days when they were trying to sort of turn this into a product for both SMEs but also for accountants helping their clients.
Fantastic, and thank you for joining us. So, for anybody who isn't familiar with HedgeFlows, I'd give you just a couple of minutes overview of what the platform actually does, and then we'll get into the chat really around how accountants and businesses can thrive using a product like HedgeFlows. But like in simple terms, like HedgeFlows kind of covers off three things. So international payments, so like easy and transparent payments in kind of over 30 currencies, just to make that simple. It's still often scary, the amount of businesses making payments through their kind of core bank account and paying a lot of fees. Then there's the pre-booking of currency side of it. So anyone trading internationally may be aware of the challenges with currency swings. So actually being able to remove the risk, especially for SMBs, is particularly important and crucial. And then the third element is being able to manage that risk. So using the dashboard to have a look and use data to make kind of timely, kind of accurate decisions on whether you should be pre-booking currency or not, and when you should be making payments. So they're the kind of three key elements that HedgeFlows does, working closely with businesses that are trading internationally, and then accounting firms that obviously want to support their customers through this transition, which we know from our experience can be kind of fairly concerning, or a lot of unknown people often accidentally start trading internationally. So that's a kind of quick overview of what HedgeFlows is and does, and you can always jump onto the website and find out a bit more. But rather than me talk to you about HedgeFlows, I thought we would have a bit of a discussion around some of the challenges around international trade and how they're managed through the accounting side, and also through somebody using HedgeFlows as a business. So if I just... Let me just stop my screen share so we can see everybody's faces. Perfect. Good. So I have a few questions to run through which I'm keen to learn about. So let me very quickly. So I guess like kicking off fairly generally, and maybe I'll go to you first, Alice, if you don't mind. Like the biggest challenges, I guess, to managing like international finances for a business. So what are they for you?
I knew nothing about international finance when I started my business, and I know a lot more now, but in itself, international finance was the challenge. Just getting to grips with the very basics of it, like exchange rates. I had no clue about exchange rates, whether it was a good one, whether it was a bad one, how it can fluctuate, no clue. So a basic understanding of what that was a big challenge for anyone starting out, I think, definitely for us. We've definitely evolved over the last 3 years. So rather than like, we now have a good understanding of where we need rates to be, how we manage it a lot better. And we've had a lot of help along the way, definitely, with HedgeFlows mainly. But now it's new challenges, trying to book an exchange rate for a full year, which is something that small businesses don't really get the privilege of because we are SMEs. So just trying to manage that, that's probably where we're at the moment.
Yeah. Do you feel that? Because I think, from my experience, the world of tech, right, is there's always technology for large businesses, right, because they can always pay lots of money for it. And then like the availability of similar type of functionality for smaller businesses doesn't always exist. Is that kind of like where you're kind of alluding to there? Is as an SMB, that pre-booking for the year is quite difficult.
Yeah, so either you have to be spending X amount, which is where we're no way near, or if for like the technology, there's always an initial outlay. And again, we can't necessarily always have that initial outlay because we're an SME.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Definitely. Okay, makes perfect sense. And what about you, John, from your experience and interactions, I guess, with lots and lots of businesses that trade this way? Where do you see the biggest challenges?
Yeah, I think we see very similar challenges to the kind of ones that Alice has articulated already, in terms of, quite a lot of businesses start either intentionally or unintentionally trading internationally, and that might be something almost as simple as maybe buying a Microsoft license in US dollars, right, to begin with, and you stick it on a credit card and forget about it, and then that sort of starts to balloon and get bigger and bigger. And I think where we see a lot of SMEs really struggle, and business owners struggle, is really understanding what risks they're potentially exposed to, how to manage those risks, and then also how, whether or not they're getting value for money, because like the whole FX payments market, particularly if you're in the traditional banking space, is pretty murky in terms of, again, as Alice was saying, what's a good rate, what's a bad rate, are you paying good fees, bad fees, and are they necessary? And I think again, we quite often see traditional businesses, for example, may not have the systems that support being able to trade with the latest fintech products, for example, and equally be not big enough to access the kind of like corporate type banking that you need to be able to do things like forward contracting and and other things like that, where you'd effectively get someone that would help and support that currency risk management for you.
Excellent, that's great. And it probably links a little bit, I guess, to my next question, John, for you, which is, as someone within the accounting space and accounting firms, where do accounting firms typically get involved and support with this? Like, what kind of support are you offering businesses that do trade internationally?
I mean, we offer all kinds of support, I guess, and that could be anything from how to start trading internationally, in terms of, if you want to, I don't know, let's say start a business in France, what are the laws and regulations you've got to comply with, because it's not all just about FX as much as probably you want to make this webinar about it, Glenn. But it can be as simple as, I want to start selling a product in this country. What hoops do I need to jump through? Legal hoops, employment regulation, if you've got salespeople on the ground, finding premises, distribution, VAT. The list is very long and varied. And so we can kind of help with all of those things. I think FX management, or sort of talking in depth and knowledgeably about FX, is probably something that's relatively new to the market. Obviously, in the fintech space, we've had players like Wise, who've been around now for quite a long time, that have made made a lot of noise around FX rates and managing that, but they're only offering effectively transactional spot rates and not offering anything more sophisticated, and so that still has been the preserve of sort of traditional banking for quite a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all chatted about how many payments companies there are now. I think making foreign currency payments is it's definitely not uncommon anymore, right? And sort of Wise have kind of led that transition. I think the bit where it gets different is, and HedgeFlows is a tool, right, in an accounting firm's armory to deal with international clients. It's not the answer to everything, because, like you say, there's a lot of stuff that needs to go on as you start getting set up to trade internationally. But yeah, the other sides of it, of being able to manage risk, and also being able to kind of look at that pre-booking element, I think offers that differentiator, but still becomes a tool in the armory to be able to support those international clients. And Alice, from your perspective, where do you end up spending most of your time? Probably not where you want to spend most of your time, I guess, but where do you actually end up spending most of your time when you're managing kind of the finance side of JBM?
I am part of the whole process. So from inputting all this, I know you laugh, but I am part of all of it. I input the invoices, make sure they're all correct. I book the exchange rate for however long and trying to figure out when we need it for. Is that going to be long enough? Will we get money in so we can then spend money buying the USD? Managing that cash flow, managing mainly USD invoices, because that's what we get in pounds and then we spend out in USD. Booking that for the correct time frame. And as you said, generally, I don't want to spend time doing finance, and having a tool like HedgeFlows does actually keep that to a minimum. It's pretty easy to use in terms of managing our international finance. Yeah.
And how did that look pre like HedgeFlows? I know you're still, I guess, relatively new as a business, but there would have been a pre HedgeFlows time. Like what did it look like then?
We used a foreign exchange company called Corpay, or they're now called Corpay, and wasn't very user friendly. It definitely served its purpose. It definitely got us going, got us into it, got us introduced, got us understanding it, but we didn't have a clearer visibility of our invoices coming in, our invoices going out, the rate, how we can pre-book. It wasn't as transparent as what HedgeFlows is. So it was just a bit more like, I'm going to use the word hidden. It was hidden from us. So it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, we've got that pre-booked, but is that? And then you might forget about it for a bit and then you come back to it. So yeah, we just have a better picture through HedgeFlows.
Yeah, it's a data point, right? I think we talk about every business being a data business. You say that data's addictive. Like, I still remember some of the earlier days of trying to get people to use cloud accounting software, and we get told that like businesses weren't interested in their finances. The reality was what they didn't really care about was their finances from 9 months ago. Actually, they care about what's going on now, and it's quite addictive when you start to see data come to life in front of you, because you can, right? As a business owner, like you can make sensible decisions then, right? You can be responsible about planning and looking ahead in your business, and that kind of stuff is interesting, right? That's super interesting for most people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. And then, like, clearly, we touched on international payments are common nowadays. Lots and lots of people are supporting them. Where do you see, I guess, like that opportunity specifically around like pre-booking and managing risk? Like, how important is that? Maybe John, will go to you first. How important do you see that part? If we pluck away the can I pay in currency? Yes, but the risk dashboard and the pre-booking of currency.
Well, I think it's really helpful because it gives you visibility, and as Alice was saying, quite often these things are hidden, and certainly in my experience as an accountant, when you're preparing those management accounts that are like a couple of months out of date by the time you actually get around to doing it traditionally, is that all of a sudden there's like a big number that might be a positive or a minus that says FX differences or foreign exchange differences or whatever it might say. And sometimes to the business owner that could be quite a shock, because they hadn't really appreciated what exposure they had, and how significant that can be. Quite often as well, I think we're also guilty, more often than not, of reporting that sort of outside of like direct costs. So it tends to just be tucked away near the bottom of overheads. So you're not really seeing it as a real true cost of doing business, particularly if you're buying and selling a product of some description. So that's quite risky for a lot of businesses. I think I think in terms of what the opportunities are, kind of alluded to this before, is that being able to pre-book currency, being able to manage risk has generally been the preserve of larger organizations who do have a corporate banking relationship, and this kind of idea of treasury management, if you like, is kind of just not really something you see in the SME space. And not something that someone like Alice really wants to get involved in, to be perfectly honest. But having a product that's there available with you that's got visibility just makes that makes things a bit easier. And with if you can work collaboratively with an accountant as well, who maybe has a little bit more knowledge about certain things that complements the business knowledge, then you've got a great platform from which to make good informed choices from.
Definitely, that makes perfect sense. And how about you, Alice, like that kind of pre-booking risk management part of it? Like, how important is that to you as an SME business owner?
Definitely agree with John, where it's like you either see a minus or a plus for your differences, for your rate differences, and you're like, I wasn't aware of that. Now with HedgeFlows, like definitely more aware of that, definitely more transparent. And also I think the more you see of having your dashboard there, if you see the rate every day, because it's so easy to get onto, it just makes you less, I'm going to say less hesitant to go and do it and less scared to go and do it. I think it just gives you more confidence in being like, okay, I can see this. I do know what's going on. Like I know where it is if somebody asks me, or if I need to know what I'm quoting out at. And I think the opportunities of pre-booking is that once you've done it, you've done it. So like if you just book it in for the month, for 2 months, however much you need, however long you need, you don't need to think about it again until the end of the month or the end of the period where you then just need to pay people. So it leaves you so much more time to go and do your business, to do the thing you love doing, which is what you want to be doing. So that's where the opportunity was for me, that you pre-book it, you've done it, you can put it away for now, knowing that I've got that rate that I needed, and when I next need it, I can come back to it.
Yeah,
the one biggest for me.
I think we did there's a report that HedgeFlows produced. We surveyed 500 businesses, called the SME Empowerment Report, and one of the things that came out from that was like 73%, like nearly 3/4 of the business we surveyed, said that pretty much their largest concern was currency swings. It's kind of stuff that keeps them awake at night, just wondering what's going to happen and not really knowing or understanding, right? So it's that lack of visibility, which is really kind of eye-opening just there. Good, John, back to you. Just on I guess the accounting side, we've got a number of accounting firms kind of on the call. I guess I'm reluctant to use the word advisory, as I always am, but we'll use it for the sense here of how do you see accountants being able to productize this kind of thing as a service, right? An advisory service to help businesses, I guess, like really get up to speed and make the most of being able to trade internationally.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you talked about the fact that people have been able to make international payments using fintech for ages, and I think quite a lot of firms have struggled to kind of leverage that technology as a service line or as an additional opportunity. And I think part of that is just because it's very transactional in terms of what happens, whereas this is much more of a planning thing. So this goes kind of hand in hand, if you like, with the kind of other services that a lot of firms already offer, whether that's alongside management accounts or forecasting or helping build a strategy and things like that. And again, one of the great opportunities about being able to do pre-booking of currencies and stuff is it gives you absolute certainty. So whereas in the past you might have been trying to forecast out, and business owner says, oh well, we're going to do 200,000 euros of sales over the next 12 months. Well, you'd probably just put it in and make an assumption about what the rate would be, and then a day it's probably out of date and wrong. And potentially with HedgeFlows, you could book that rate, as Alice was saying, almost like a year out in front, and you've got absolute certainty what that's going to cost the business. Yes, there's an upside and downside risk to that, but quite often, as a survey said, is like businesses want certainty around what their costs are, and that's how you manage your margin and how you manage manage what you charge your customers, particularly if you're charging customers a different currency to the one where your predominant costs are. And again, that's kind of like opportunities for accountants like myself to advise clients on is how else can you manage your currency risks? It's not all about being able to forward book or being able to pay in foreign currency, but how about if you are trading overseas, maybe selling to someone not in sterling but maybe in euros, and then paying out your costs in euros if that's where your predominant FX exposure is, and seeing if that works for you. There's lots of strategies you can employ, and it's just a matter of kind of getting into the business and working alongside the business owner to try and help support them and understand what their objectives are, because I guess like Alice and lots of others, some of them kind of can stumble into foreign currency overseas trading without really realizing that's suddenly become their day job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just staying on that theme a little bit, John, we'll stay with you for just 1 second. Like bank charges, right? They're a contentious area when it comes to FX payments, which is, I guess, kind of why people like Wise and Revolut have seized that opportunity. But how has that relationship over years changed, from a business owner and a bank? Like, how do you see that? I guess those challenges that have occurred.
I mean, I think for most SMEs, if you're within the traditional banking sector, there is no relationship anymore. You know, you get statements or a bank feed from the bank, and you know, maybe the occasional letter or something, and you might transact with them on a loan or something else like that. But there isn't really a person anymore that normally you would talk to unless you're very lucky, and so there is no sort of banking relationship there to guide you in terms of being able to navigate, you know, just the general banking system, let alone the complications of FX or lending or whatever else. And so again, that just opens the door to people like myself in terms of we've now got to fill that gap sometimes and help support people. And I guess you see that now with most new SMEs, most new businesses that are coming in are going direct to people like Starling and Revolut and stuff, because what's the point in going to a high street bank, you know, where the service and the technology is not as good as the newer fintechs, when really what you're looking for is just a transactional service. You know, you want to be able to put your money in a bank and it be relatively safe, and you want to be able to make payments and receive money, and after that, there's nothing else to be taken from the relationship, really.
Yeah, definitely. And your experience there, Alice, I guess you'll be a customer of a bank or two. Like, what's your experience been around that?
I agree. We use a high street bank, and we don't have a point of contact, and it is purely transactional. And hindsight is a wonderful thing, and hindsight should have gone and used Wise, Revolut, but we didn't know at the time. But now, yeah, like, it's just having that knowledge, having someone to be like, this might be a better option for you. This might be what you want or what you need, as opposed to a high street bank, which is a bit, I'm going to use the word dated sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll make a wild assumption, Alice, but you probably didn't start a business, right, to be a bookkeeper. Otherwise you would have started a bookkeeping business, I guess. So you spend a fair amount of your time, I guess, on that financial admin. So, like, when it comes, I guess, to like managing like the JBM kind of finances and business, like what is the like most important kind of thing? What are you trying to achieve, I guess, in that function?
Smooth process. If we pay our suppliers on time, correctly, so it's easy for both parties, it means we can continue trading, because we have good suppliers, we have good agents that we want to continue using, and then we can provide the best service for all our customers. We can make sure, so it's almost a backwards process, that if all the finance goes smoothly, everything comes in and everything goes out on time as it should, which, you know, is always the dream, then we can provide a better service for our customers, which is why I started JBM Freight, because we wanted to provide that good service. So yeah, having a system that can help us with that smooth service and be really clear, transparent for both parties, yeah, that's really important when managing.
Excellent. And we've had a few more questions left, but just before I jump into those, you know, there is a Q&A panel, so if anyone does want to pop a question in for either John or Alice, then feel free to do so, and we'll just have a couple of minutes at the end to pick up on those. Staying with you just for a second, Alice. So keen to understand a little bit about, you came in, started the business, knew very little. I won't say nothing because that sounds rude, but we say very little about international trade, right? And now you're kind of a semi-expert. Like, how did that transition happen, right? How did you learn or really figure out what you needed to know to run a successful kind of like SMB business?
So some people just fall into accidentally trading with other countries, with foreign countries. We chose to. We use suppliers that are based all around the world. We knowingly went into that business having zero knowledge, and definitely it was an afterthought of, oh, we now need to learn quite a lot about this. And it's just getting stuck in. It's a matter of getting stuck in, being like, our business has to move forwards. We are going to have to learn a lot, use the people around us. So when we were using Corpay, using their account managers and asking them questions and being like, our account manager, I must have rang him maybe like 4 times a day with some days and been like, I know I asked a question earlier, but to asking lots of questions, and people are generally there to help. Like, people will always say yes to helping, just with little bits. So yeah, definitely doing that, asking for help there, definitely.
Excellent. And then John, over to you. So kind of, I guess, like, linking back to, I guess, sometimes that lack of expertise that SMBs feel, and like the SME Empower reports, it's like 65% of SMEs kind of like feel they lack the expertise to trade internationally. So there's people not doing it, right, because they just don't feel confident enough to actually start to do it. Like, how do you see like accountants supporting, or like what kind of skills are they bringing to the table to help businesses start to expand internationally?
I think it's comes down to confidence, really. You know, the whole purpose of, you know, being a professional, offering a professional service to businesses is to give them confidence that they're making the right decisions, or they're making informed decisions. I'm not sure we can always guarantee they make right decisions, but at least if they're making informed decisions, then, you know, they're minimizing the risk. And you know, that's like a key part of a business. You know, we've already talked about the fact that, you know, Alice is wanting to manage her FX risk, so she's got certainty in the business, and, you know, she knew that she wanted to get into this. You know, and I don't know, you know, if she knew when she got into freight forwarding that the predominant, you know, currency that you trade in probably is going to be dollars, because that's you know, fairly typical of the market. And it's those kind of things that, you know, accountants with experience, you know, can provide, you know, and you know, we can provide support on, and whether that's, you know, using things like networks that we're part of, for example, to give you, you know, boots on the ground, you know, advice in the local areas and things like that. That's always helpful. And there's a myriad of things that we can offer support on. And, you know, there's a lot of challenges with trading internationally. You know, we've talked about some of them before, and, you know, I guess one of the most fundamental ones being that, you know, a Brit, is that, you know, quite often the language barriers are one of the biggest ones to get over with, because you know, most British, you know, language skills are pretty poor compared to, say, like our European counterparts or another parts of the world. So I guess you either then stick to just trading in the US or Australia or somewhere like that, and don't go anywhere else, but that kind of limits your opportunity. You know, and also there's lots of other places you can go to. So it's not just about coming to accountants, but, you know, things like your local sort of, you know, trade commerce groups and things like that will also help you establish in foreign markets. They'll help you do market research and do other bits of research. You know, and you know, in the same way that when you've got a business in the UK, operating just purely in the UK, once you do start to trade overseas, you do need professional support, you know, generally in that country that you're going to operate in, just to make sure that you're managing the risks and doing the right things. And the challenge with that, of course, is that comes with extra cost. You know, it comes with other, you know, other complexities, because then you're starting to deal with more than one set of professional people, for example. So there's just a little bit more to manage, and you know, that is challenging, particularly if you're an SME that wants to grow quickly, or you know, it's quite a small group, small team that, you know, are all sort of juggling lots of different things all at once, which is not untypical.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Could I,
Great, thank you, John.
could I just follow up on that?
Yeah,
You mentioned that we can't, as business owners, we can't always make the right decisions. And I want to reiterate that you're absolutely right, that we don't make all the right decisions. Not every decision is like, yeah, that was great for the business, we're going to make loads of money, or we're going to expand into X, Y, Z. It's taken time to get this far, to get that knowledge. And it's taken making those mistakes and being like, that wasn't the right decision, actually, next time. And talking to the people you've got supporting you, like I talked to HedgeFlows people, talking to your accountant, and going, actually, you might be better off if you did it this way, or if you thought about this. So yeah, I think you're not always going to make the right decisions, but if you're asking people around you, they can. I just agree with the point that you're not always going to do it correctly, maybe.
Yeah, and I think also, just to add to that, right, is that, you know, I quite often say, like, as an accountant's role, like, one of our things is really just to be kind of like a bit of a, you know, a therapist, a bit of a mentor, and all those kind of things as well, in terms of, you know, businesses make bad decisions sometimes. You know, that's just part of life. Everyone makes bad decisions. And you know, the most important thing is how you react to that bad decision and how you deal with that. You know, and sometimes, yes, it can be catastrophic and it can shoot your business down. Sometimes it can just be, oh, it's cost me a couple of £1,000 and we can kind of move on. But the most important thing is being able to deal with that. And one of the great things about having a professional involved is that we can be objective. As much as we want to support our clients' businesses and everything else, we cannot just step back and sort of say, right, okay, we can take the emotion and the heat out of this, and we can sort of, like, you know, as objectively as possible, like, go back and reassess that decision making process and say, yeah, okay, that was a poor decision, but here's what we can learn from it, and we can help you to learn from that as well.
Absolutely.
That's good. Yeah, good discussion. Last couple of questions. So, last bit of data I've got from the SME Empowerment Report, but it says that 69% of businesses believe their business would substantially benefit from expanding internationally, but 70% won't expand internationally because the trading costs remain too high. Like, what do you take from that? What do you think needs to happen, I guess, to enable more businesses to feel comfortable and get to the point where they can realize the benefits of trading internationally? Maybe I'll come to you, John, first.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, again, for me, it comes down to, you know, a few things. One is, you know, do your market research. You know, if you've got a product, well, again, you know, we talked about this before, like, you know, quite a lot of SMEs sort of almost fall into international trading by mistake, and it's usually because they've got a product that's in demand, and someone somewhere around the world finds your website or finds something about you, whether it's at a trade show or whatever, and says, oh yes, I need that. But I guess the key thing is it's the same old stuff. It's like, you know, do your market research, you know, figure out where your competitors lie, you know, make sure you get your pricing right, and then if you know, and figure out whether there is genuinely a business case. I think the problem is like a lot of SMEs don't know where to start with that, in terms of, like, you know, if they want to expand into, say, the States, for example, you know, how do you go about doing that? You know, where do you start? You know, and again, being quite a small island nation, you know, more often than not, you know, looking to operate overseas tends to be that you're going to be looking to operate in a country or an area like Europe that's so much bigger geographically, so much more complex, and that's a big challenge to overcome. But I think it just comes down to the fundamentals of business: is know your business, know your product, know your customers, and you know, if you know all of those and you've done your research correctly, then you'll be able to price the product in a way that works for you and works for your customers, or you'll be able to make that choice about, no, it's simply not going to work, and it's as simple as that, I guess.
Excellent.
As simple as that.
Alice, your views?
Oh, crikey. I'm not sure on this one.
I guess the key is, how do we get,
yeah,
like, what gave you, and you guys are naturally set up to trade internationally, but
yeah,
what gave you confidence, I guess, as a business owner, early stage, to try and get involved and do that?
knowing this is probably going to be more of the emotional side, whereas you've given us, like, these are all the practical steps you can do. Believing in what you do, backing what you provide, being like, actually, yeah, we do provide a great freight forwarded service, or we do provide great products, and people want them. Like, if you've got, like, somebody's gone, oh, do you sell this to America? Do you sell this to France? Being like, okay, somebody wants it, so other people will want it probably, and just back what you do.
Nice, back yourself.
Yeah.
Good. Look, my final question for both of you really is, I'm looking for a piece of advice, a learning, a nugget of wisdom, something around, like, if there's a business thinking about starting to trade internationally or setting up and will trade internationally, like, what's that piece of advice, I guess, or bit of wisdom that you would give, that you've learned? Alice, let's go to you first.
Oh, crikey. I feel like I've harped on about this quite a lot, but use the people around you that know more than you, because you do not know everything as a business owner. You only know your little bit, and you might be really good at it, but use the people, use the systems. HedgeFlows provided, it filled a big gap for us. HedgeFlows did. Use the people you know, like, that know more, definitely. And don't be afraid to, don't be scared to, and don't apologize for not knowing either. People don't expect you to know everything.
Yeah, such a sensible thing to say. I think the whole point of, like, the HedgeFlows relationship is, HedgeFlows is a tool that accountants and SMBs use, right, to facilitate that relationship. to help each other. So it's exactly the context of this kind of session is we're a platform that's two-sided for accountants and bookkeepers to be able to support their clients, but then equally for the SMB businesses out there to be able to run their businesses effectively on. What about you, John? You must have a nugget or two.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to say something like, consult a professional, because that's the way to go, and then Alice stole my thunder. So,
I've been talking to the professionals for 3 years.
That's all good. It's all good. So I mean, I guess for me, it's like, keep it simple, right? I mean, yes, trading internationally potentially is complex. Language, taxes, employment issues, FX, all that jazz. But actually, just keep your if your business processes are really straightforward and simple, then actually adding those layers of complexity into your business operations isn't going to be as impactful as maybe you think it is. But if you're issuing every invoice in paper form and you're handwriting everything out and things like that, then actually, yeah, trading internationally is going to be a nightmare. And sometimes you can be genuinely surprised by actually how easy it is sometimes to trade overseas. We saw a huge e-commerce boom during COVID, during lockdowns and stuff, with people starting to sell internationally, doing all sorts of incredible things. And it just happened, and those businesses, yes, they had to deal with weird things to do with VAT and the Brexit issues and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, there's a pain in the backside sometimes, and admin's rubbish, but get the right support. Try and minimize the operational impact on your business in terms of minimizing that administrative headache and stuff. And if you get the right advice and do both of those things, then you can achieve loads of things, and you'll be successful doing that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much there. So that kind of brings us to the end of the questions. I've just got a couple of wrap-up points. So I touched on the SME empowerment report a few times, and you can get this off our websites. It's a really useful resource, like 500 businesses. So some good insights in there for businesses and accountants to understand. So if you want to download that, feel free to go and grab yourself a copy of that. And if we've kind of interested you enough from the chat to look a bit further into HedgeFlows, then you'll find all of our contact details there. You can reach out to us at hello@hedgeflows.com, and we can kind of set up a kind of short demonstration to walk you through the platform and see if there might be a fit for you as a business owner or you as an accounting firm looking to support customers this way. Which just leaves me to say thank you to Alice and John for the time. Thank you to the guys at HE Magazine as well for putting this on. But it's been really, really useful. Great to spend some time with you both. And thank you for everybody turning up and listening for us for the last half an hour. And enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. Thank you.
Yes.
Cheers. Bye.